Hello. I'm hoping that Travis is going to join me. I've seen that he just liked my story talking about this. We're going to talk about birth, guys, and I'm really excited to get into this. Travis, if you're there, hit the button below to join, and let's get you in. And hopefully we'll get some people following and they can get some questions to us as well. Hey, Drew. Hey. Right, Travis, I see you there. Why is it not? Right. Come on, let him in. I think this is going to be a good conversation, guys. Anyone that's listening today or watching this back later, I think you're going to enjoy it.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Oh, I can't see
Thank
you.
you so much.
How are you doing?
Doing good. How's it going?
Good. We're having a very hot summer at the moment, so I know you guys are used to it over there. We're not.
Yeah.
This is hot for us.
It's hot down here in Florida too, so
What's the temperature like there?
it's right now probably 90, but it's so humid. You just immediately sweat as soon as you walk outside.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Just needs to be by the beach. Travis, I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I've wanted to talk to you for a while, but obviously we had something booked, then I cancelled it, so it's all on me. But I'm really glad we're here today.
Yeah. Thank you so
I'm
much. You've been one of my biggest supporters. I've made this page like 2 months ago, just ranting my perspective about childbirth. And you see people that resonate with you and kind of have some of the same ideas. So you've been we probably disagree on a lot of different things, but it's the mindset that we have coming
yeah,
into it is already like skeptical. We have this
yeah.
like skeptical of these people that are claiming to be the authorities in birth, essentially.
We asked the
And so when you
questions.
see that, I appreciate it, and like hats off to you because I know that you're a practicing doula and you're in this field. So to get
Mhm.
recognition by somebody that has like respect in the field to know that my ideas aren't just like super crazy or irresponsible or because I am just a guy that took responsibility for his own daughter's birth, and it was just me and my wife who free birthed at home after educating ourselves. We did it in a informed way, not like in a neglectful just didn't make it to the hospital irresponsible kind of way. We planned to free birth with just us, and
Yeah,
to have recognition from somebody that's respected in the field, I appreciate that because it lends a little bit to my credibility because I'm not a practicing doula or a midwife or even trained in anything. So I just learned about it, and then my wife obviously is the one that gave birth. I was just there essentially as her doula.
yeah, amazing. The
So
reason
thank you.
you're very welcome, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining me. Like, I really
Yeah.
do respect you. I love that you ask the questions. You don't give a fuck. You say
No.
it how it is. That's why I think I was drawn to you. I saw one of your very first videos, and I thought, hold on a second. I remember listening to you, smiling, thinking, God, who is this guy? Who is this dude?
Nice.
And why is he like this?
I
how
just
is
I
how
just am
is he like this?
skeptical. It was
Why do you
because
think?
of our doula training. When we did our doula training, you just learn about so much, and I just took interest in it. So when my wife was sharing with me, we were listening to a podcast, and she became, almost brought her to tears listening to Ayla talk about her doula training and how, all these different things happen in birth. And like, my wife was like, I want to learn this stuff from this lady. So I was just being supportive in her making the decision to take a doula training. And I was like, well, if I'm going to support you and pay for half of the training, I want to learn all this stuff too. So when she was doing all the trainings, I was doing all the homework with her, watching all the documentaries, Business of Being Born, the Elephant in the Room, the circumcision documentaries, listening to Dr. Stu and listening to all these different OBs and different people that are kind of teaching more of an out of the system perspective, a midwifery mindset, and then you go down the rabbit hole of how childbirth was in the beginning, and you're just like, this is not a respectable or scientific practice at its roots. It was rooted in barbaric interventions and experimental stuff, and then childbirth was dangerous, and we've seen it as like a medical thing that we have to monitor and intervene all the time. And it's like, then they share those statistics from the early days of obstetrics and Rockefeller medicine, and they use that to validate their own existence, when it's really like, no, you guys created the problem, and now you're saying that you're like the savior of childbirth, when really the statistics are still getting worse. So
And they're
it's
saying
this
that
like,
we're the problem. They're saying that our bodies are the problem.
yeah, the bodies are
They
the
caused it.
problem. Yep.
They
And
fucked it
anybody,
up, and we get the blame.
it's the biggest gaslight for women. It's like, now because of the way that hospital births are taking place, only I think it was recently I heard that 27% of women are able to breastfeed exclusively for the first 6 months. And it's like that makes women, that alone, when a lot of those women wanted to breastfeed, because that's like a rite of passage. You're like nurturing your baby with your body. So then they think there's something wrong with them. Like, and it's because of, a lot of it's because of the way that hospital births are taking place, that then they're not allowed, they're not able to breastfeed for one reason or another. And
Mm-hmm.
that takes a mental load on them as well. Like, what's wrong with me? So then it's like they're causing a lot of the problems, and then gaslighting women. And then now women are developing Stockholm syndrome, because now they're defending the system that
Yes.
abused them, where they're
Mm-hmm.
like,
They're
even
faking
when,
it.
yeah, so they're not able to like reconcile with the fact that like maybe they made some decisions that weren't necessarily the best. And,
Mm-hmm.
I feel for them, but it's literally just because of lack of information about birth in and of itself. Like, we don't know anything about birth as a society, as a people.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a question for you then, because you say we don't know, but
Yeah.
we did know.
Yeah.
Humans
Right.
knew, right? Men knew, women knew. We knew how to do it. So at some point that was taken away from us.
Right.
The grandmothers were passing the messages down, and at some point that's just been hidden for
Right.
whatever reason that was, Rockefeller, whatever. I'm assuming it was all to do with money at some point, right? I think
Of
we're on the same
course.
page there, and power. So can we just go back a few years? So how old is your child, the one that was born at home?
Two, almost two and a
2 years.
half now.
Okay, so let's go back 3, 4, 5 years. What did you know about birth, and what was your thoughts on birth?
I had no idea about anything. I knew, my little siblings are from a different mother. So my dad had two more kids with another woman. I know about what their births were like, and my older sister had three kids. And I know that what our birth story, me and my sister's birth story. So I only knew like, you know, eight or so birth stories. And then I heard of course, my older cousin, he's like almost 50 now, but he was, the family story is that he was born with the cord around the neck, and he had a lack of oxygen to the brain, and that's why he's not, I wouldn't say Down syndrome, but he's definitely on the spectrum somewhere, where he's just like, he's a little different, and at that time there wasn't that many people like that, that are in that age. So that was always something that was in the back of my mind of like, so then when we learned that, I was like, wait, maybe this wasn't because of what everybody in the family has always believed. So there was a few, myths about childbirth that were instilled in me, and then just a few birth stories. But honestly, if we, would have gotten pregnant before we did the doula training, I would have just been like everybody else. I would have just went to the doctor. I would have been scared too. I would have been nervous. I would have went and did whatever they said would have decreased the chances of complication, which actually we know now it increases the chances of complications. There's no real way to medically take out any risk in childbirth. Like, there's inherently going to be some risk involved with bringing life into the world, but they use that little bit of chance where something might happen as a way to validate all this different stuff that they're doing with more and more
With
detrimental
risks.
results. Yeah. So
When you look at the risks of the alternatives, they're so much higher.
yeah,
But
it's
it's
literally, it gets back to when you peel the layers back to everything, from the time you pee on a stick and realize you're pregnant to the
mm,
time you birth your baby, every single thing from then on that you intervene, whether it be a scan or a test, or all those things were created to then get you into the system on the on the snowball of interventions. Like, not one of those things is actually contributing to a better outcome in birth. Like, not as soon as they started doing the ultrasounds, as soon as they start all these different interventions that they start doing during the course of your pregnancy actually does not increase your chances of having a better outcome. So eventually you have to ask yourself, why are we doing it if it's not to ensure that we increase our chances of a better outcome? So we're doing all these things actually for no good reason, and it's only lining the pockets of the hospital system that's like 80 years old. Like you said, the knowledge was known. We knew midwives had the knowledge passed down through the family. Births were happening at home, so siblings were around. You know, the older sister saw her mom give birth to her siblings a couple times before she was even of childbearing age. So like when it came time for her to be a mother, it wasn't even something you really had to pass down in a conscious way. It was something that was just
it's part of life.
Like, just like, yeah, cooking eggs in the morning.
It's like a recipe.
Yeah, it's like you just know how to do it. But then when they started taking it systemically, propagandizing midwifery and getting births to happen in the hospital in the middle of the 19th century, like 1940s and stuff, 1950s, I think it switched to being more than 50% was happening at the hospital. When before, in like the 20s, it was like 98% of births happened at home. And now that same percentage is happening in the hospital. But before that flip, they were having 12, 13, 14, 15 into the 20s. They were having babies. Like women were from 16 to late 40s were bearing children their whole life. And you have to ask yourself, you know, I'm not worried about how long the kids lived. I'm not worried about how they conceived so much because there wasn't birth control, or, you know, you can answer all kinds of different reasons around why you think that. But the fact that the act of childbirth itself was so successful back in the day before doctors, that's when you have to look at these pictures and you have to reconcile with the fact that it was taking place a lot with great success during midwifery care at home. And the husbands were part of the birth because it was just something that happened at home. So dads knew about birth too. So when they started taking over childbirth and it was happening at the hospital, they had to get the dads out of the delivery room because that was the only way they were going to be able to start in doing these interventions and start, you know, experimenting on women essentially. Like the husband would have never stood for that if he had just experienced, you know, 5 home births and then goes, you know, he would know something about, hey, you're not letting the process take place. Like they were like, you know, just leave it up to the experts, and the dad, you can just enjoy yourself, drink scotch and smoke cigars in the waiting room. You know, and it wasn't until like Dr. Bradley started advocating openly for men to be in the delivery room.
Yeah, and there was a time, wasn't there, that men were chaining themselves to the hospital bed so that they could be in the room. And all they did then was take the women out of the bed and put her in another room while this poor dad is chained to the bed.
Wow. So it wasn't without a fight that dads were just letting their wives, you know, be their childbirth completely dictated by these men in white coats that were said to be experts, when it was always women gave birth with other women.
Yeah, but it was a status thing as well. Imagine if you go back to the times when Big Pharma, when that was all coming up, the people that had the money were going to have the hospital births. That's where that started. Or you'd have doctors coming into your home and you'd pay a lot of money for that. So it almost became like a status thing as well. So I can see why a lot of dads would say, well, this looks really barbaric, but actually we're the ones with the money. We're paying the people in the know. We're paying the specialists here.
Right.
If we keep it in the home, do we look like we're lower class? Potentially.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because that could be a big part of it. It could be.
So if they compromise the people that have the money first, so that they know by effect the people that like idolize the rich people, the successful people, the movie stars, the athletes, the you know, everybody that had the money, they were seen, and there was a, you know, a campaign to advertise childbirth as this status symbol because look, you know, this person that you know is a star, and they, you know, they don't birth with midwife at home. That's not sanitary. They birth at the hospital where they're medically trained, and so it was a campaign. So I feel like if they just go for where the money is first in society, then by effect, it trickles down to the poor people thinking like, oh, well, I want that too. But really, we had it down when we just didn't mess with the process at all.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from a place of like, oh, I don't have the insurance, I don't have the money. Like, we could have done everything that, we could have chosen any birth that we wanted to have. But once you peel back the layers of every single thing that's, in the birth space, it actually doesn't help the goal of having a healthy, good, positive experience in childbirth. So we didn't do it for any other reason than it's actually what is ideal, and it's what increases your chances of a positive outcome.
You weren't saying fuck the system, fuck the government.
Fuck the system, fuck the government, absolutely. And outside of the system completely. Not a birth certificate, not a social security number. She doesn't have any of that. We recorded the birth in the family Bible. My father was out in his camper van outside the house waiting to hear the good news, and my mother-in-law was in the other room while me and my wife did our thing in between the bathroom and our bedroom. So there was me, mother-in-law, and my dad. There's more than 3 witnesses. The legal has it that if it's in the family Bible and there's more than 3 witnesses, you don't need an affidavit. You don't even get it notarized. It's notarized by the fact that there's witnesses and it's in the family Bible, and she can still go and do all the things that, later. She's not going to pay into Social Security until she's an adult anyway. She's not going to, she doesn't need any of these things until she's of driving age. So we have it recorded so that she can do all those things, but it's not, the government doesn't even know she exists in terms of legality. There wasn't a licensed midwife, there wasn't a doctor, and I feel like if more births happen like that, then people would really actually realize how much the system isn't even needed. So it's not that we have to fight a system. We have to learn how it operates, become conscious of how to go about life without it and take responsibility, and then just live completely outside of it, and then it doesn't even affect you. Like in my day-to-day life, other than having to pay taxes or whatever, but we don't ask for the government's assistance. We don't, co-parent with the government. We don't send our kid to public school. When we stop needing the system, it doesn't even, it's not a thing, you know?
I think the key word you just said that's jumped out straight away for me was taking responsibility for whatever it is you're doing in your life. And that's obviously what you did when your wife was pregnant. So can you talk about what was your thought process, the both of you, when your wife found out she was pregnant? What was the first thing you're thinking?
Well, she knew, I think, maybe a week after conception because of the attachment bleeding. She's she noticed there was something, it was different than, a normal period bleed or normal spotting or whatever. She just knew something was different. She told me, she's like, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. She wouldn't even pee on a stick. So there's a week after potentially we conceived, she tells me that, but then to appease my anxious mind, she wouldn't even pee on a stick. That's how trusting in her body from the beginning.
So wait, what? Are there women in the world that can know they're pregnant without doing a test?
Right.
What?
Right. Yeah, you know yourself enough, and you know your cycle enough, and you're in tune enough with what's going on with your vaginal health. You know about when you're ovulating. She had to learn this stuff. She wasn't taught this stuff. She learned it as a grown woman. She's learning from other holistic minded women, and we were doing Weston A. Price kind of stuff and following, just learning about our health for at least 4 or 5 years before we even conceived. We were getting everything dialed in. And so she knew that she was pregnant, and I asked her if she would pee on a stick just so I would kind of know, and she wouldn't even do that. So it wasn't until I started to see the little baby bump and she missed maybe 2 or 3 periods that I actually was like, oh, so she wouldn't even do that. Yeah, she wouldn't even do that. So that's how
I love her.
No pregnancy test, no ultrasound, not one OB visit, not one blood test, not one amniotic fluid check, not
Mm-hmm.
one cervical check, nothing. We didn't do anything from conception through pregnancy to now almost 2.5 years old postpartum. Like we haven't stepped foot in a doctor's office. We haven't been to a wellness check. She hasn't done anything. And I can count on one hand how many times she's had like throw up, and I can
Mm-hmm.
count 2 times that she's gotten a little bit of a fever. So she hasn't had any sort of, issues that, almost 3-year-olds have nowadays. And she's
Mm-hmm.
talking full sentences. She's, you know, she's not even 2.5 yet. And
Mm-hmm.
she's telling people how old she is. She can count to 10.
Mm-hmm.
She's with it. Now I have to really be aware when she's around, because she's a little human, and she's been like that from the time she came out. I saw her looking around, looking for the boob. As soon as she came out of her mother, she wasn't, intoxicated. She wasn't stressed out from
Wasn't
any
drugged on
Pitocin.
fentanyl.
Yeah, or contractions that are induced
Yeah.
with Pitocin that are so the baby's like, what the fuck was this? What is this introduction to the world?
Mm-hmm.
Everything was just so peaceful and calm. There wasn't any lights in her face. We had the little Himalayan salt lamp. It was just
Yeah.
like a nice low light. And she was looking around and looking for the boob. Latched right to the boob, had the perfect suckle reflex. Like, it's supposed to be like that. And
Well,
I could be biased because I've been to one birth,
mm-hmm.
but the way that we did it,
You don't need to see the shit birth to know that that was a good one.
yeah, and I don't. That's why we chose to do what we did, because we wanted to ensure that that was our experience. And the way that you increase your chances of having that is by knowing that it's even possible and choosing that for yourself and taking responsibility for it and preparing for it as if that's a non-negotiable. And you have to make peace with the fact that with that also comes unavoidable risk, whether you're at home
Yeah.
or you're at the hospital. And the chances are that if it's such a catastrophic thing that takes place,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't going to be able to do anything about it at the hospital anyway.
Yeah.
If it's
We hear it
that
all the time, don't we?
catastrophic.
We
Yeah,
hear it all the time. I'm so glad I was in hospital because this happened, that happened. I would have died. My baby would have died. I needed to be there because if I was at home, we wouldn't have made it. The hospital saved us. And I won't outright say to people, that I've suffered real fucking trauma. No, hold on
right.
a second. It was probably what happened when you were in the hospital that's caused that. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that because they don't need
When I,
to. They'll work that
yep.
out eventually, right? They'll get there.
Chances are higher that when people say that, it's because of what they were doing in the hospital that caused it, so that they needed to be saved, than the fact that it was actually a genuine emergency because they did everything undisturbed, and then all of a sudden there was an actual medical emergency. So then they transferred to the hospital, and then the hospital did just the thing that was needed. Like, chances are it was something that happened at the hospital that caused them to need to be saving. So when I hear people say that, all I actually hear is, I almost died because I was at the hospital. Because I had a hospital birth, I almost died. When they say, like, if I wasn't at the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
oh, me and my baby would have died. All I hear them say is, I almost died because I was at the hospital. That's what
Same.
I hear come
That's
out of
what
their
I
mouth.
hear. Yeah.
That's all I hear, and they don't even understand that. And that's the Stockholm syndrome. That's and some people are just so prideful of the fact that they made it through something that traumatic that, yeah, I'd be fucking proud of that shit too if I survived that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it goes so far as defending, you got to be able to reconcile the fact that maybe it was a traumatic experience because of the things that were taking place there, not the fact that just birth is inherently like that. So we're blaming birth, and we're blaming,
Mm-hmm.
things that are not supposed to happen during birth for negative outcomes in birth. But it's not because birth is inherently dangerous.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People will come at me all the time. I get a lot of hate in my DMs. You're promoting home birth, you're promoting free birth, and it's dangerous. Hold on a
No,
second. I will never say that either is more dangerous than the other. They can both be dangerous.
Right.
Let's face it,
Yeah.
especially if you're deciding to have other people in the room.
Yeah.
Unless it's someone like you, unless it's a doula you really trust or a family member that loves you and will do everything to protect your peace and keep you happy and safe. When
Right.
there's outsiders in the room, you can be at home and still have a really fucking shit time.
Yeah.
Right, and I will never, I don't get it twisted, anyone listening to this, I will never say choose free birth because it's inherently safe. No, it can go
Right.
wrong. But it's
Yeah.
about what you do, preparing yourselves as family through that pregnancy and having those real conversations that are horrible, they're gross. What are we going to do if this does turn shit?
Yeah.
What if baby dies? What if
Yeah.
you start to bleed out? Because it can happen.
Yeah.
And it's taking that responsibility and having that discussion with yourself saying, am I going to be able to live with my decisions?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Can I? What's Angela said? A dude doula. Yes, Angela. Amazing, right? Stick around. It's such a good conversation. Women and their partners need to take responsibility through their pregnancy for
Yeah.
whatever the outcome. And if they're going into hospital and birth is shit and they're suffering trauma, that was their responsibility. They chose
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
had my daughter's 9 and 2 weeks, bless her. I had the most horrific birth experience.
I'm
It's
sure.
awful to the point where I can't talk about it with people because it's that bad.
Yeah.
But everything that happened was my decision.
Yeah. It was for a reason.
I chose everything. I chose to be there. I chose to let the midwives do what they were doing. I asked them to do things.
Right. Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
begged for an induction. I begged them,
Right.
please, because
Get this
I
over
believe.
with.
Well, I believed for 38. I was 38 when I had her. So I was geriatric. I was so
Yeah.
ancient. So obviously, you're way too old to do this. You're way too fat to do this.
Mm,
There's no way that you can do this anyway without a doctor. You need the professionals. So that was ingrained in me the whole way through my pregnancy.
right.
Then I begged them to get this baby out because I'd been told for 38 years that a baby is full term at 37 weeks.
Right.
So if my baby's fine at 37 weeks, get this baby out of me right now
Right.
because I'm done, right? And
Yeah.
that's where it just turned to shit.
Yeah.
I was not willing to take any responsibility for what the end result could be.
Yeah.
The not being able to breastfeed and having to use formula as well as breast milk. Eventually we got to 6 months and I was able to fully just breastfeed. We did it for 4 years. And I'm so thankful that I stuck with that. I'm so
Nice.
thankful. But that's I think that was not down to support because I didn't get any at all. There was no support. I was just told by everyone, give her a bottle, give her a bottle.
Right.
Forget pumping, forget trying to breastfeed. Don't keep her on you all day long. You're spoiling her. Even though that would have helped my milk, supply
Yeah.
be so much stronger. I was told get on a bottle and just get on with it. I had no support. The only reason I stuck with that for 4 years is because I'm a hard-headed bitch.
Me
And if
too.
some right, if someone says give her formula, I'm like, you can get fucked. I am not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
going to do the opposite. Whatever it is, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah. You
It
probably
gets
have
it
better
gets me in
chances doing
trouble.
the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, Travis, talk me through. So we know where you were before your wife got pregnant, what your thoughts on birth were at that point. What work did you and your lovely wife do through the pregnancy that enabled you to have that beautiful free birth at home?
I think it was probably brushing up on the stuff that we learned in the doula training that we had taken a year prior with
Okay.
Ayla Cuenca. She has
Hmm.
this uncovering birth doula training, and she has an interesting past that she shares on different podcasts, but she was a birth photographer.
Mm,
So she was at a lot of births and seeing birth just as supposed to be a fly on the wall, just taking pictures. Like she's not part of anything. She's supposed to be like completely out of the, you know, and
yeah.
she was just seeing birth from this like, very interesting perspective, editing pictures and, just and then it got her interested in taking a doula training and that got
Mm,
her, foot in the door into births. And then she started realizing when she was taking one doula training, from what her personal experience was as a photographer, she was like, felt like it was incomplete. So since she would take another training, so she's taken all these different trainings and realized that a lot of them kind of just are incomplete and kind of just teach people how to be like a hospital doula, where you're just
hmm.
kind of holding their hand through all the different interventions.
Just
And
mop her
it's
brow
nothing,
and that's fine.
yeah, it's nothing about actually educating them and preparing
Yeah.
them for any sort of, informed decision. It's just like incomplete. 1 week long kind of class
Hmm.
that you could just say you're a doula. And so she created her own like really comprehensive. It's like it was like 8 months or 8 weeks, or it was a lot of different homework and study and listening to birth stories, having the cohort of other women. And we were, it was really in depth. It was like borderline midwife training without the, residency and,
Mm.
everything that you have to do that comes with being a medicalized, licensed midwife. But it
Hmm.
was very comprehensive in terms of the doula training. It was comprehensive enough for us to take full responsibility of the
Hmm.
birth. So we like brushed up on stuff from that. I read Dr. Bradley's husband coached childbirth because that
Hmm.
one's like specifically from a man's perspective as a doctor that was at 20,000 births throughout the course of his career, but he grew up on a farm. So his perspective of birth was like not letting it get disturbed because he saw farm animals giving birth. And he was like, oh, when they go into a quiet area, they don't, so his whole thing is the Bradley method being like the most close to a natural birth that was possible at the time. And he's talking like in 40s and 50s and 60s. And he was coming at the tail end of the like knock them out, drag them out, crazy
Hmm.
interventions during childbirth. So he saw that and was like, we are doing it very wrong. So then he was having like great success in his practice doing it in the Bradley method way. So I was reading about him and the Bradley method from husband coach childbirth because we were gonna have a doula, but then we moved back to where we live. It's 1,000 miles north from here in Maryland, and that's where all our family is. So we were like, if we're gonna have our first kid, and we're gonna do it, outside of the system. We have to be close to family. We can't,
Yeah.
So we moved back to where the doula that we were gonna have, she wasn't able to, travel that far. So it was time for me to either, be my wife's doula, or we were gonna outsource it to who knows at the time because we moved back and she was due in a month and a half, so we would have had to find somebody who was willing to support us in the way that we were actually seeking, and the only way for that to have happened was for me to just be her doula and support her because I knew more than what whoever we were going to go to in the system was
Hmm.
going to even know about natural physiological birth or what we were even attempting to try to do.
Yeah.
So we had the support of her mother, who she was obviously she knew that her daughter, my wife, was taking the doula training. And so anytime our family members like had questions or whatnot, that's a lot of what makes it hard for people is because they're not educated enough to even push back against or answer properly when people ask them or question what they hear them say they want, or like, I'm going to try a
Yeah.
natural birth, or I'm going to do this. And then somebody says like, well, there's a risk with that because my uncle's cousin's father's blah, 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 blah. They did this. And then, so they don't actually know enough about why they're making the decisions that they think they want. So
Hmm.
when somebody would ask us a question about our birth, and eventually they would not want to talk to us about it anymore because then we would just have all these answers for them and it turns into a 15-minute conversation because I get passionate about it. And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, they're like, oh, yeah, you guys are going to just do what you want anyway because now they done thought they were going to say something slick about something. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, actually, that's a myth. And because this, and this, and now they're forced to reconcile with their own misunderstandings about
Hmm.
childbirth. So if you know enough about it, going through the pregnancy and birth and telling people that we were going to do it the way we were going to do it, it was fun for us. It was
Yeah.
fun to ruffle people's feathers, and they're just like, "No, you can't. You never even got an ultrasound." Blah, blah. And it's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to blast ultrasonic wavelengths into the freaking
Right.
developing baby's brain. Here, look at this study. Here, look at this." They're like, So then it was actually fun as being a conspiracy kind of guy. Like it just opened the doorway to so many different conversations to ruffle feathers. It's like people
Yeah.
have a terrible perspective of birth, and it fucking gets me hot.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like absolutely the same. But it's not their fault because they've probably experienced shit births. They've seen shit
Yeah,
births. They
yeah,
they watch movies, right? What's a
yeah,
birth like in a movie? Horrendous.
yeah.
So and I'm sure they come in from a place of love and care, and they want the best for this baby that's going to be born and for your wife, their family member. So obviously they come with those questions, but you're right when you say people will come to you with reasons why you shouldn't do it. And if you aren't even sure yourself why you're making that choice, it's really difficult to argue back, isn't it?
Right.
When my daughter, when she had her first child, she free birthed, and it just came out of nowhere. I thought everyone had a baby in a hospital. I hadn't even thought anyone had a baby at home. I knew it happened in the old days, but I just thought everyone died. I don't know how,
Yeah.
I never put two and two together and worked out that obviously not everyone died, because how am I here, right?
Right.
How are you here? But
Yeah.
anyway, my daughter just said, "Yeah, I'm gonna have a baby at home with no midwives," and there was no real reason. Just I just am, because that's what I want, and it's really difficult for someone like that to then argue their case, because it's just a feeling they have. It's not based on some research. It's not based on a previous experience they've had.
Right.
It's just a feeling, just a knowing.
And
That's what I want to do.
some women are just built like that. They have
Mm.
an intuitive instinct of a primal knowledge of, soon as they conceive, something switches in their brain where they're like, I got this. And they don't even have to have any sort of knowledge about it. And when it comes time to deliver their baby, they just make it happen. They're
Yeah.
just built, they're just fucking built different. Some women are not domesticated, pussyfooting around weak ass women. And that's what
That's my daughter.
domestication and society and
Yeah.
brainwashing and feminism and all this fucking bullshit that has, we
Mhm.
talk about the demasculation of men. Let's talk about the demasculation of women. Women are fucking weak nowadays.
Mhm.
They're complaining, whining, weak women.
Yep.
That's I'm not trying to be misogynistic, but
No,
it's
I'm on that
happening
page.
to,
I get you. Yeah,
and
absolutely
so
get
that's
you on
why I
that.
resonate with like strong women, like my older sister, my grandmother, my mom, like all the
Mm.
women in my life are hardy bad bitches. You know
Mm.
what I mean? My wife, they're just built different, and these women that are domesticated and brainwashed, if they would be those women that aren't built for free birth. They are somebody that needs to have somebody beside them that is knowledgeable and trained and skilled and knows what the process is, and and to each their own. So
I'm
it's not,
terrified of
yeah,
working as a doula for those women. I
no,
really don't like to
I
work with
won't do
those
it.
women.
I
Yeah.
won't go to a hospital. I won't go.
Yeah.
That makes the job of a doula of having like more positive outcomes. I want
Mm.
to assist and serve people that are already on the philosophical wavelength that I'm on. They just are looking for some prenatal meetings and to
Mhm.
hear, reassurance and have somebody hold them accountable for their diet, and you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they are already seeking what I know is going to lead to the highest probable outcome of having a positive birth.
Mhm.
That's not just listening to everything they're saying at the OB's office, and then every single prenatal meeting it's like, oh well, my OB saying that, and so now the whole service of my job as a doula is to just negate everything that you're going and being told at the OB, because it's like this like I don't choose to serve those kinds of people. Me and my wife like serving people that are already choosing like midwife care. Maybe they're having a birth center birth. They
Mhm.
want to have a free birth. They want to have a home birth with a midwife. People that are choosing something outside of the system because we know that that's what's going to contribute. I don't want to have a traumatic experience. I don't want to have to be
Why
fighting the
should we have to
system
do
the
that?
entire time. I don't want any parts of that. So
Yeah.
like when I talk to experienced people about our the way that we did birth, the people that don't have any experience and they hear that we're like not trained medical professionals and we had a birth completely out of the system
Yeah.
and didn't do any interventions, people see that as some sort of crazy thing. But then when I tell people that have been to over 100 births and practicing OBs or midwives that have been to 400 births, these people hear me say that I was the only one present at my daughter's birth, and they're like, oh, that's awesome, like good for you. They don't see it as some sort of crazy thing. So that
Mhm.
should tell people something. Like the people that are the most experienced with it don't see that as something that's crazy. So that's
Yeah.
where it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's people with the least amount of experience and knowledge about a certain topic are the ones that are the most vocal about it.
The loudest.
And then the people that have the most experience and the most knowledge
Mhm.
are the ones that know that they still have a lot to learn. So they're not
Mhm.
the most vocal about it because they know that there's a lot of nuance involved. They know that there's a lot more to learn than just saying, blanket statements about something.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
I just thought that was very interesting when I'm talking to experienced people, like, because I kind of thought that it was a little ego stroke. It was kind of fun to tell people how we went about our birth, and I was the only one there, and they're just like, wow, that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool, but I'm just like, it's actually not that crazy. And then it starts a conversation.
Kind
But
of normal. You think it's crazy,
but
but it's
yeah,
actually
but
kind of
when you
normal.
talk to people with experience, they're just like, oh, that's good for you, bud. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like anything crazy. So that alone should tell people something. Like, it's not as crazy as you think once you know about the process. It's like, what is actually crazy is how we're fucking it up. That's the craziest thing.
We're asking for it to be fucked up. It's more
That's
crazy.
what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Travis, I've got to ask you something. Okay, before I ask the question, I get a lot of messages from women that say, I want to birth this way. So whether or not it's at home with midwives or at home on their own or with a doula, right? This is what I want, but my partner, my husband, my boyfriend is not on board. What can I say to get them on board? Now,
Yeah,
I don't go back to them with an answer of tell him this, tell him that. I don't do that. I
right.
advise they sit and they talk, and she talks about her reasons, why she feels that way, where that's come from. Is it
Yeah,
based on fear? Is it fear of a hospital, or is it fear of, the outcome, whatever? I get them to have a conversation because I don't know what the answer is there. I don't think you can just turn someone's mind around like that. If
yeah.
you were, if you were to have that conversation with a man who's having a baby soon, what would you say?
I think he needs to realize that if there's this is straight out of the I think his name is Jake. He wrote the book Why Home Birth, but he makes a great point when he talks about the birth of a woman's child. That day is more than just the birth of her child. It's gonna carry with her her whole life. How that takes place is that's what she's going to be thinking about, like on her deathbed. She's going to be thinking about the birth of her children. And so
Mm,
it's much more than just one day. So if she has the inkling that maybe she doesn't want to go to the hospital, maybe she wants to do it differently, maybe, if that's what her intuition is guiding her towards, you need to support that regardless of what you think or what you feel or how you're emotionally reacting to it or where you have to follow that intuition and you have to be supportive in her decisions because ultimately it's her birth, it's her, yes, it's your baby, but she's going to carry it and she's going to birth it and she's going to have to live with how it takes place for the rest of her life. It's more than just one day. It's
mm,
going to carry with her forever. So
mhm,
if she has the intuition to guide her to not wanting, hospital birth or even wanting a hospital birth, if that's where she thinks she's going to feel the most safe and her nervous system is going to feel the most regulated for her to be able to achieve a natural birth or whatever birth she's choosing, if her intuition is guiding her to where she feels like she's going to be the most safe, you need to support that. That's
yeah.
just the end. That's the end of it because it's more than just that day. The implications of it are going to affect the relationship that you have with her because if you want to, you're scared, so you decide that I'm not going to pay for a midwife. I want you to give birth at the hospital. The insurance covers it, blah, blah, blah. If you're making decisions just because of that and you're manipulating her into changing what her intuition is telling her, and then there's a traumatic birth, she's going to hold subconscious resentment or just straight up resentment towards you for that decision because now
Mhm,
you're going to have to reconcile with that because not only is she going to have to live with it the rest of her life, but she's going to blame you for it.
mhm, absolutely.
So you could think you're right all day long.
Mm,
I don't care. That doesn't matter. If you may be right, if she wants a hospital birth and you know about childbirth and you know about undisturbed birth and you want her to have a home birth, like I could not force my wife to have the experience that we had. If she
mm,
wanted to go to a hospital or whatever, I would have to have supported her in that decision regardless, because if it goes wrong, we go through it together and I'm supportive of that decision so that everything after that, we can still go through it together. We're doing it together. You can't, and she's ultimately the one that's going to have to live with it forever. So if
mm,
she wants to have a home birth and then it goes wrong, and you were there holding her hand the whole time, it's going to be a more peaceful of an experience of loss than if you go to the hospital because you demanded that they go to the hospital and now something happens. You're going to get divorced the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? She's not going to want, you weren't able to hold the safe space for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and something was happening, and it was because you were the one that your fear made you go there, and she wanted a home birth with a midwife, but maybe you weren't willing to pay for it or even support her in that decision. So I think men have to, no matter what their wife's intuition, of course, let them know about things that you find that might sway. Like, you got to have the conversation. This is why I feel this way. This is why I feel that way. You got to have open dialogue way before you're even, thinking about the birth itself. I'm talking preconception.
Absolutely.
My wife and I talked about, before we even got married, we agreed on 2 kids. Like, so you plan these kinds of things. Granted, not every, birth takes place like that, but even during the pregnancy, these conversations should be talked about and figured out together, and you should be supportive. Even if you don't agree, you have to be supportive in her decisions, because ultimately it's her nervous system that's going to have to be calm in the experience for the birth to have a positive outcome. Yeah. And if you're contributing to anything that's not going to be supporting that, it's going to be on you for the outcomes of it. Even if it's subconscious, even if you don't even really realize it in the time, and then now it's 2-3 years postpartum and you're wondering why there's this subconscious kind of resentment going on in the relationship, it comes back to the birth space. Yeah. You have to be supportive of your partner during childbirth. That's the whole reason that I even learned all this stuff, is because once you realize there's a rabbit hole here, and they're using fentanyl and epidurals, and you're like, let me learn about all the other things that are going on so that I can, when the time comes, I can effectively, be the protector of, my wife that's pregnant with my child. Yeah. I did it out of instinct that I need to know this knowledge so that I can know about how childbirth takes place. How do I become a parent? I knew that I wanted to have kids. But then when she was like, I want to do the doula training, it's like, that knowledge is going to help us when it comes time for us to have kids. So, I would recommend everybody take a doula training. It's just the lack of 100%. Knowledge that we have in society. We just don't know anything about it. When your cousin gets pregnant or this person gets pregnant, just having one little conversation because you know something about it, it could change the course of their pregnancy. Just because in society, we don't have enough people that are planting seeds of any sort of counter narrative to birth. Everybody just has this mindset that birth is dangerous, and so then nobody wants to have kids. So then it's like, we're just not going to be a species. Yeah, essentially, that's what they want. They don't, they don't want people that are having 12 babies outside the system and don't rely on them for the food system, and strong people outside of the system. That was what was attacked with. It's all comes back to that. It's control. You control the womb, you control the world, and it's like, nobody's going to control my wife's womb.
Yeah, right. My daughter is giving you a round of applause there. Hey. In the comments, Cassie, because she was that bad bitch I mentioned earlier. She did have a partner that wasn't quite on board. He wasn't where she was. She just knew she wanted to do it that way. And he was like, talk to the midwives, go to the appointments, please, because it's my child as well. And I want the best outcome. And it wasn't coming from a place of control or anything. It was coming from love. Like, it's my baby. I want the best for you and my baby. But eventually, he was on board. And then when it came to the second baby, it was, well, of course we don't need anyone else. Well, we've got your mum. She'll be here. She's a doula. Cool. If we need her, we'll have her. But in the end, it was just them in the room on their own. And now he is kind of like the quieter version of you. When he's with his friends, he talks about that beautiful experience, that free birth. And no matter what happens in their relationship, because they'll have ups and downs, like all couples do along the way, with 2 babies that are now like 1 and 2. No matter what happens, she will always know that he had her back. Right. He supported her with the 2 biggest decisions she ever made in her life, and that was to free birth her baby boy and her baby girl at home.
Yeah, and that just makes it affects the relationship more than I had no idea how much it would impact This is all just after 2.5 years postpartum of just
Mhm.
processing. I just made this Instagram 2 months ago,
It's incredible,
and
isn't it?
processing and working with a couple more clients and just really realizing that there is such a gap in society, but the the impact of the knowledge is so deep in the fabric of a society that I think that there's nothing more important. I don't think there's anything more important than reclaiming what has been lost in the birth space,
Yeah.
because that's what's going to implore people to take responsibility for it. People are going to, everybody that's having success with it now, if you look at these big families on Instagram, you see all these big, like, homeschool Christian kind of families
Yeah.
that are having, one of my mom's best friends, Tanya, growing up, I love Tanya. She was one of my mom's crazy friends that just kept having kids. But she's also like one of those church going people that homeschooled all her kids, and her husband are just like super awesome people. And so I'm
Mhm.
starting to realize that, and like all the people that you see that are doing it like that, they're not going to the hospital for these births. These women are doing free births at home. Maybe they choose
Mhm.
midwife care, but a lot of them are just birthing babies at home, and they're having massive families. So the people that are having the most success with it are doing it a different way. And I
Again and
never
again
thought
and
that I
again.
would I would never be one of those people, but now I'm genuinely considering, like, my wife and I agreed on two, but it's like, if you
Hey, it's
have two,
okay.
why not have five? I don't know. Like, if I think
Yeah.
that is what we think that, who we have the mindset. I used to have the same mindset. Who wants to bring a kid into this world? I never pictured myself as a married man with a family. That was
Yeah.
never in my path. I
Mhm.
was, the hippie guy traveling around, couldn't tie me down. But then when I met my wife and we were traveling and growing and enjoying each other's company and growing and continuing to learn, then, a baby is gifted to us after we have the knowledge of childbirth. And now it's completely changed my life, where it's like I realize why I used to have the mindset, because I was in that, propagandized, brainwashed mindset of,
Mhm.
live for me. Who cares? It's like when everybody has that mindset, we're just gonna not exist. And if you don't have anything like a child that you love, that you're willing to die for, you just like fall for anything. If you don't actually have a reason to like stand on any sort of like morals and values, and because now you have something to protect, then you start to actually realize that a lot of this stuff is under attack.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I just feel like it's our obligation to have kids and to teach them a completely different way outside of the system, and
Yes.
that's when
Yes.
everything's
Yes.
going to change. It's
Yeah.
not going to be like, oh, don't bring a kid into this world because it's so messed up. It's like, well, then it's never going to change. We have an
Yeah.
obligation to change it with our kids, how we show them that we learned this way, but it was the wrong way. We learned a different way. Now we're going to go this way. So then you create a whole generation that goes this way. And despite the
Absolutely.
system,
Do you know,
yeah,
so many people say to me, you should do courses, Natalie. You should do online courses. You should do group courses in person. You'd be a really good birth educator. No, that is not my bag. I have no interest in teaching anyone else. I am focusing on my people. That's
yeah,
my daughter, who's now 28 with her two kids. Educate them. Or not educate them, but learn with them, pass down my
yeah,
knowledge. My 9-year-old, well, soon to be 9-year-old, has seen birth. She's seen free births. It's completely normal life to her.
nice.
These are the people I'm focusing on. Just
Right,
them. Because they're the ones that are going to change the world. She'll
right.
go on and make very, very different decisions, very, very different choices than I made when it came to my health, vaccinating, schooling. She's home educated, obviously. But
Yeah.
she'll go on and make very, very different decisions. And now my 28-year-old is. She's very different to how she was maybe 10 years ago, 18. If you start with your own, that's where you'll see the big change.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm all for educating people, get the message out there as much as we can. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're on social media, right? We want to talk our truth, spread a message, our gospel, I suppose. And I love the way you do it. The way your account has grown is shocking. I,
I never expected it.
no, I did. As soon as I saw, I think it was one of your first videos, one of the first couple, I think.
Yeah,
I
you've been
saw it,
one
I
of
was
my
like,
biggest
it's gonna grow.
supporters.
I love it because okay, who the fuck do you think you are being a man and talking about birth? That's
Right.
what I love.
Right.
Like, you must have missed the memo for the last 50 years. You know, feminism hasn't reached you, has it? We're not supposed to listen to people like you. We're not
Right.
supposed to learn about our bodies from people like you. And that
Right.
is what I love. You're saying, I
Yeah.
don't give a shit. I'm going to tell you my truth.
Yeah.
This is
This is
what
just
you need
what
to
this
hear.
is what we experienced, and this is what I've learned. And if it's just the fact that it's coming from a man like that, I mean, that's just an immature kind of
That's
perspective.
ridiculous. Yeah.
And it's funny because I see how, it can be taken in a, distasteful way, but I honestly, I don't
That would
mean
be
it
crazy. Anyone
in
that
any
has that
sort of,
attitude, hearing you is clearly insane because you're not saying anything ridiculous. You're not saying anything crazy.
yeah.
It's not a
Well,
conspiracy. It's not something that's just popped out of your mind. You thought, I'm going to run with this. No, babies can be born normally, vaginally, in your wife's bed.
yeah.
That's not a conspiracy. So
Yeah.
keep talking it. That's why you're growing on social media. That's why I've had so many messages about this chat tonight. My friend, Clarice, she's my client. It's my previous client, her baby that I caught in my arms when she free birthed him 1 year ago today. She couldn't join us, but she really wanted to. She wanted me to say to you, like, how on earth, ask him, how on earth has he got this big social media account when women talking about it don't get there? And I think the answer to that is, well, you can tell me what you think, but I think the answer is because we really do actually want to know what men think about this. We
Mm,
do want to know what our men think about the decisions we're making,
yeah.
why we're making these decisions, the fucked up shit that's happening in maternity around the whole world. We want to hear all voices, including
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
I mean, if men actually all stepped up and every child that was conceived, if that man was knowledgeable about childbirth and he could hold that safe space for his woman and
Mm,
protect her, the funny thing is the women that don't like, to hear it from a man or whatnot, they likely could have used a man that was knowledgeable that would have been able to hold the safe space and advocate for them because they likely had a traumatic experience and now they have this like deep subconscious resentment towards their partner that they're then projecting onto a man like me that's just they pop up see on social media that they know absolutely nothing about. They don't know anything and they just see a man talking about something that might be truthful about their traumatic experience, and then it's not even it's just like they're so in fight or flight because of their trauma and their
mm,
Stockholm syndrome that they're literally just victims. And we can pray for these people because that's what I see. It's like if just because I'm a man
mm,
raising a question, that alone is what triggers you. It's likely because you have a problem with men or were traumatized, or you
yeah.
have this like brainwashing from feminism that men aren't even worthy of being listened to. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I created half of the baby.
Mhm.
I'm half of the
Correct.
process. So if, if I was not able to do what I did for my wife, we wouldn't have been able to have the birth that we had.
Mhm.
So it's like
Yeah.
my voice
Facts.
matters every bit. It's in a different way,
Mm.
but it matters just as much.
But it will reach the way you talk. We're similar in the way that we will talk about these kind of things. We don't give a shit if it pisses people off. We don't care about that because we don't know
Yeah,
any of these
no,
other people.
I wished it didn't. I
Mm.
wish it was received by everybody with, maybe you disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't received in a traumatic way or with backlash, that's how I know that it needs to be talked about more. If it was just received with good old whatever,
Mm.
I wouldn't feel like I was doing a good job
Yeah.
because that would mean that everything's hunky dory, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
fucked up. It's
Yeah.
getting worse.
I used to get.
That's the kicker is that
Yeah, it is
it's
getting
not
worse.
getting better. It's getting worse. That's what's crazy.
Outcomes are not getting any better when you look at all the interventions, all the scanning, all the blood tests, all the appointments. There is not a single outcome that's improved
No, and you see the
across the board.
childhood illnesses and the conditions of childhood now,
Hmm.
and the things that riddle children nowadays. health wise, developmental wise. Like, it's ridiculous. And I do believe that a lot of these things have been correlated back to the different things that take place during pregnancy and birth that affect, and immediate postpartum, right when baby's born. A lot of these things that are modern, we can look at the Amish, and we can look at people that are free birthing and home birthing, and we can look at midwifery care from, we can look at all the models of childbirth, aside from the allopathic Rockefeller medical model with OBs and medicalized midwives. And every single other model of childbirth has led to a better population. So it's like the Amish kids that aren't vaccinated, they're not riddled with the things that modern kids are. There's, childhood obesity, all these different things that are a result of modernization and of civilization and domestication and the medicalization of childbirth. It's not seen in the groups of people that are birthing outside of the system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, I think, the birth space and everything that takes place during pregnancy and birth, it has implications that we really don't realize in society and in the family and in children today. Because then having a kid that has one of these issues, it changes the family.
Oh, yeah.
Because now they need intensive care. Now they're going to the pediatrician all the time. Now they're even more reliant on the system. The more that you rely on the system, the more that they're going to create things that make you reliant on them even further. So the second that you even go there for a test, for a scan, for whatever, chances of them finding something that may or may not even be true leads you to, now you have to make 2 more appointments because now you got to get this blood checked and now you got to get this. And it might have all actually been from something that wasn't true to begin with. So it's like that they do not increase your chances of having a positive outcome. And if the whole entire medical system disappeared overnight and everybody had to free birth, I think the results would improve.
Absolutely.
Dare if I say, if everybody had to birth without hospitals, if the hospital disappeared, I think the outcomes in birth would improve. Because everybody would start, and that's what was happening during COVID. People weren't going to the hospital. You don't hear about all these successful home births that were happening because nobody wanted to birth in the hospital. Mm-hmm. You only hear about the home births and people that transfer because of one reason or another. And the majority of the time, it's because they were just exhausted and they chose to go to the hospital. It's not because of a medical emergency that women even transfer. So the fraction of time that even like the percentage of a percentage that they even go because of a medical emergency, and the fraction of those times where something actually does happen to mother and baby, they figured out that it wouldn't have actually mattered if it took place in the hospital or not. Yeah. So the outcomes would dramatically improve if they just, like if we had a government shutdown, if we just had a hospital shutdown of the labor unit for 2 months. If nobody could go to the labor unit for birth for 2 months, let's look at those 2 months of outcomes, and I guarantee you, I'd put my life on it. I guarantee you that the outcomes would improve from all these different medical interventions and all these different hospital births. If we just juxtapose 2 hospitals and we just shut one of them down and look at the outcomes, it would improve. Because what was happening before it, they were having great outcomes and then blaming the stuff of early obstetrics on the midwives. And they were going from cadavers to delivering babies without washing their hands, and women are getting infected. And all this shit that we have in our minds of birth is dangerous and women and children die, and all of that in our minds, we have to realize that that is because of what they were doing at the hospital. That's not because childbirth is inherently dangerous, because otherwise, why would women subject themselves to it over and over again for the majority of their life, giving birth to 20 plus kids before modern doctors? That I can't stress that enough to people, that when they have those reactions to people saying that birth is safe, they're having reactions and it's emotional. It's like, no, it's not safe. It's traumatic. If I didn't go to the hospital, I would have died. And so many people before the hospitals, they're our savior. They're not realizing that those statistics that they're sharing about the early days of childbirth and so many people died, and it's because of the shit they were doing in early obstetrics, because the chainsaw wasn't invented for cutting wood. It was
When I learned
invented
this,
it was invented for cutting through the pelvis bone and cartilage during difficult childbirth, because women were birthing on their back and they were just experimenting with them.
mm-hmm.
So of course there's going to be a lot of fucking death. You're cutting the damn abdominal wall and pelvis bone with a chainsaw, and you're like, and then you're like, well, see, a lot of women and children died during childbirth. Oh, we got to fucking have doctors. It's like, if you would just leave them the fuck alone, they'd be just fine. So when people spew those statistics that childbirth is so inherently dangerous, they're actually talking about the hospital system, because that's what was making it dangerous to begin with, to then validate their own existence. So they're like, see, oh, we're glad you were here. It was emergency. It's like, well, you fucking turned it into an emergency. And that's what they've been doing. Now it's just its modern form. You think a fucking C-section was a old school midwives answer to a difficult labor? You think the old school midwives would look at a woman and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna cut open your abdominal wall and we're gonna extract this baby, or we're gonna fucking stick a vacuum up your vagina and we're gonna fucking extract it that way? Like, all these things that are done in modern maternity wards that are just seen as fucking normal is not what used to take place, and it's not saving people. What it's doing is creating a great business model. If you got 1 in 3, I think it's up to fucking 40% now. It's almost
money.
And they're trained in surgery. And if you think that that's what the solution is, you're just mistaken, because they're cutting women and doing major abdominal surgery. And that was 100% of Rockefeller man's conclusion to a problem that women have. Women have difficult labors. The solution is not cutting open their abdominal wall and extracting the baby.
We have to, here in the UK, we're close
everywhere.
to 50%.
And it's been so normalized. Yeah, it's been so normalized that we don't even realize its roots are in the torture of enslaved pregnant black women. This modern stuff, gynecology and obstetrics, it is all rooted in ridiculous barbaric stuff, and this is just its modern form. So that's what people are failing to realize. When we look at things that are in existence in society today, we got to look at its foundation, where it was conceived, why it was conceived, how it came to be, what steps got us to where we're at today. And when we follow it back to the early days of obstetrics and gynecology and Rockefeller medicine, they have not done anything but fuck up the human civilization's health, the outcomes in every aspect, because they're the number 3 leading cause of death and is medical error, behind only heart disease and cancer, which is actually probably because the medical system itself and the bad advice that they're giving to people that are coming to them. Because the cancer scans don't contribute to longer outcomes or longer lifespan. They're finding stuff, and then now it's like, oh, now you got to get chemo. Now you got to get this. Oh, you get a pap smear, you get a mammogram. Oh, now we found this. And we don't even realize that might have resolved if we never even fucking, did anything or found it. Yeah. So all those things are rooted in the same idea of this medicalization that it's helping us. It's the savior of humanity. And not one thing that they have done and implemented in mass is actually for our health and benefit. It is for nothing but business, and it's harming people. So I know that's why I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, I love it. Travis, I love your passion so much. I could just sit and listen to you talk and keep this conversation going for hours. I wish I could. In 6 minutes, I have a call with a lady that wants to hire me for a free birth. So I'm going to have to jump off and go on to that. So I'm excited for that call.
Yeah. We're here to serve our people. We're here to serve our clients and the people that are close to us.
So before we wrap this up, tell me what are you doing? What are you supporting families at the moment, like in person or online, or what's next?
Yeah, I'm figuring it out. My wife is she's the practicing doula of us two. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
actually a certified doula. I just learned all the stuff with her.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the last couple that we had helped, I had met the guy when I was out with my daughter, and he was, saying like, "Oh, your daughter's so cute." My wife is actually 12 weeks pregnant, and then I started the conversation with him and was like, "Well, I delivered her myself at home, so my wife
Mm-hmm.
and I could teach you a lot." My wife's a doula. He was like, "Wow, I gotta, hook my wife up with your wife." And then so
Amazing.
we ended up having that client, and I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
chatting with him throughout the process, kind of making him feel more comfortable. They were already leaning towards doing a midwife at a birthing center, so we were already kind of philosophically aligned. And I always try to stress that before I even mention that we're
Mm-hmm.
doulas or whatnot, because a lot of people are not going to be our type of people.
Yeah,
You
of
know what I
course.
mean? So I'd like to see if somebody's even open to
Mm-hmm.
hearing my thoughts about it, and if they are kind of like crunchy or
Mm-hmm.
looking for an alternative way, then I'll even mention it. But I'm
Yeah.
definitely trying to, I didn't expect this to blow up like it has, so I'm definitely trying to think about ways to start helping fathers, maybe even make a course. Or I'm
Mm-hmm.
still getting the offerings, but right now it's just helping people virtually.
Mm-hmm.
I did a couple consultations with people, mainly
Right.
men. um and one woman in California, it was her first birth. She just like asking some questions about what her OB's been telling her and stuff. So I'm getting some DMs, and I'm doing consultations. I like doing that because it's when you're talking to people one on one, because there's so much nuance to birth that you really have to like talk to them and break down previous birth stories. You just have to meet them where they're at, and that requires like just one on one consultation time. So
Yeah.
I'm open to, I've never had a client personally, like
Mm-hmm.
myself, but I'm definitely open to serving the right people, because it's an amazing experience. Like,
Yeah.
it changed my life forever. Having a baby outside of the system and seeing that, I watch birth stories still today. It makes me
Yeah.
tear up.
So do
It's
I every
such a
time.
it's a it's such a powerful experience. So I'm open to being somebody's doula, but it's definitely going to be somebody that's not trying to have a hospital birth, wants to have a free birth, and just
Mhm.
wants, some support from
Support. Yeah.
somebody that has a mindset like me, that can reassure them, that can, hold them accountable for their preparation. And, so I'm open to being somebody's doula, but
Mm-hmm.
mainly because I do believe that women should serve other women in birth.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work more with the male partner and helping him,
Yeah.
see my perspective and share my, story with more
That's
men,
amazing.
teach them, because I think my wife has more of the womanly touch when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to clients. So I just want to refer, I kind of created this because my wife was like, "Yeah, you get to talking to people in public, and then it ends up being like unsolicited advice because I get passionate about it." Like, I'm more passionate about it than my wife, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, because to her it's just like, "Yeah, we did this. This is what I'm built for," But to me, it just blows my mind that it that's what's possible. Like,
But not everyone's doing this.
right, like, so I wanna refer people to my wife. I want to you know, get her with all the different clients that we can serve, because I keep asking God for guidance in what I'm supposed to be doing and who I'm supposed to be serving.
Mm,
And then this page started to blow up, and I was like,
yeah.
God, make it go viral if this is my sign that this is what you want me to do. And boom, it just started blowing up. So I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be telling people more about birth in one way or another. I'm still 2 months into this, and I'm open to any and all things. I want to go on all the podcasts. I want to talk to all the people. I want to learn all the stuff. I want to take all the courses. I want to take Dr.
Mm.
Stu's Breach and Twins workshop. I want to
Oh,
I want
amazing.
to learn all the stuff for our future kids too, but also because I know that this isn't for me. This is for the people that are looking for this knowledge and information. I'm just being worked through at this point, because I was
Yeah.
not supposed to be this person. This wasn't my journey. This was not anywhere in
I
my
think
realm
you
of.
were, but you just weren't aware.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like God chooses the most unlikely person for a certain mission, because I swear to
Yeah.
you, I would have told you to get out of my face if you're talking about childbirth, because I'm never going to be pregnant. Why the hell would I care? Like, if I met me 5 years ago and I
Mm,
heard me, talking, I would not be my friend. I'd just be like, this guy is out of his mind. Like a lot of people are sometimes when I have conversations in public. They just like get like
Yeah,
disgusted by how passionate I get about childbirth because they can't even wrap their mind around it.
yeah,
But the right people are supposed to hear that. And
yeah.
that's who I've been finding. And it's like it's been serving. And that is the most rewarding thing. Like the last client that we served in the birth center. I don't I don't know anything more important to spend your time doing, to study, to help people with, even if it
Mm.
is just with the knowledge and even if it is just an hour long consultation, just to hear a different perspective. It's just something that is not out there in mass, especially not from a male's voice.
Absolutely not. Please keep going. Please don't stop what you're doing. I'm really excited to see what does happen.
Hey,
I
thank
think
you.
what you're doing is incredible. You're right. The men need to hear it. I think
Yeah,
you're an amazing voice for men to hear, but women as well, the whole family. So
thank
please
you.
keep going. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm just
Yeah,
smiling the whole way through. I love it. I love the passion. It's so powerful to hear. It's really exciting to listen to. Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Don't stop. Hopefully we'll speak again another time because like I said, we
Yeah.
could do this for hours. I'd love to.
Well, we'll be
There's so
liking and
much
sharing
more.
each other's stuff. We'll be liking
Yeah,
and sharing each other's stuff.
yeah, absolutely. There's so much more we could talk about, that's for sure. Take care. I wish you all the best. Send lots of love to your little child and your wife, and thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Natalie.
Have a good day. See you later,
See ya
Travis. Bye.
later.
Bye.